Hello to my fellow musicians who play trumpet, and welcome to ITG's Listen and Learn. Today is August 24, 2020, and given the current world health crisis, I would like to take just a moment to recognize the impact COVID-19 is having on so many people, whether it be as a direct health concern, the loss of loved ones, or the economical hardships it has wreaked on so many. Let's hope that we get out of this pandemic as soon as possible. If you view this video in the future, I certainly hope that this novel coronavirus will only be a distant memory and that it remains solely in the history books. My name is Dominic Derasse, and in this video presentation I will talk about range, endurance, consistency, flexibility, tone, and technique. These are the most common requests I get when prospective students contact me asking for help with their playing. Those 6 elements are the treasures all brass players seek to acquire, and I have been known to refer to that quest as you are looking for the holy grail of trumpet playing. But unlike the notorious and elusive religious artifact, the holy grail of trumpet playing can be found. Let me give you a little biographical background information that may help you understand why I speak of this topic. I took my first steps with a trumpet at age 10, and by the time I was 14, decided I wanted to make being a musician my profession. That decision was inspired by my teachers, who picked up on the fact that I had perfect pitch and therefore did very well in all my music theory classes. I, of course, loved the idea that what I was doing at the time as a hobby could become a way of making a living. The only problem I faced was that my natural ability to play the trumpet, the instrument I was intent on using to make music, wasn't as good as my ears. Nerves, due to lack of confidence, affected my ability to perform in public, which of course would be a requirement as a professional. So when at the age of 17 I had to play a final recital to end my studies at the Nice, France Conservatory of Music, I was so nervous that hardly any sounds came out of my trumpet, and I failed this final task. This instrument I loved so much was truly an obstacle between my musical mind and my audience. I was told by the assistant director that I should quit the trumpet. I decided not to listen to his advice, left my hometown, and started a journey that would allow me to pursue my musical passion, and what ensued as a career took me beyond my wildest imaginations. I truly feel that my discoveries were akin to finding my holy grail. The first step in everything and anything we do in life is to figure out how it works, right? In our case, how to play the trumpet. We have a little over 600 muscles in our body, and about a third or 200 of these will be called upon when playing our instrument. So how do we even begin to figure out what those 200 muscles are, and then how to use them? Well, let's start with a simple exercise. I will ask you to stand up, and as you do, think about which muscle was the very first muscle you used when you started that action. Okay? Try that. So obviously, I cannot see you or hear your answer, but if you came up with a single first muscle, that answer would not be accurate. In order to stand up, we have to use a number of muscles all at the same time. Even though we don't think about it, they all work together to achieve that task. So, yep, that was the trick question. Well, how does that relate to trumpet playing, any brass instrument, or for that matter, any instrument at all? Well, in the same manner that our muscles had to work together to stand up, the muscles involved in playing your instrument of choice have to do the same thing. Our body follows a series of steps which enable us to do all the tasks we aim to accomplish. These steps are coordination, synchronization, conditioned reflex, second nature. And our 5th and final step is our ultimate goal. We seek to have the instrument become an extension of our body. So your goal is to make the instrument become an extension of your body. So in achieving steps up to the fourth step of second nature, we were dealing with what we were giving at birth and developing that. When we add any external object, such as a musical instrument, a bicycle, a car, a tool, or anything else really, we have to learn how to use the tool to the best of our ability and use that tool for what it was designed to do best. In our case, the trumpet, to make music. We shouldn't want to attain all of the ingredients of the holy grail of trumpet playing just to show off how well we master the instrument. We must master the demands of our instruments so that we can then showcase our musicianship. If the instrument is no longer an obstacle between your musical mind and your audience, you will experience a much more enjoyable and rewarding journey through music, and your audience will appreciate your talent that much more. As an example here, I'll mention Leonardo da Vinci, as I assume everyone knows who he was. Do you think he was thinking about how well he used his paintbrush each time he painted a masterpiece? Now, oftentimes at a masterclass or a gathering of trumpet players, I'll ask this question. I say, what do you do? 90% of the time, the response I get is, I'm a trumpet player. Can you imagine someone asking Leonardo da Vinci what he did and his answer being, I'm a paintbrush user? Well, I'm a firm believer that every person involved in music making should first state that they are a musician, and then, when usually asked what instrument they play, say what instrument they use to make and share their music. Now that we have established what our goal should be and the steps our body needs to go through to progress toward that goal, let's get into some more specific information directly connected to playing a brass instrument. The first and foremost thing that might come to mind will be production of sound. Most beginners will ask, how do I make a sound on this instrument? I will usually ask them, any sound? And they reply, yes, as long as I can get a sound, any sound out of it the first time, I'll be happy, as I have heard that it is pretty hard to do that. Okay is my reply, but I explain that unlike with most other instruments, brass players need to physically create their own sounds. As we proceed with this first approach, I simply explain that in order to make a sound on any brass instrument, our lips need to vibrate. And the simplest way I have found to create this vibration for myself, and therefore for my students, is by making the lips touch in the same manner as saying the letter M and feeding some air to them. I refer to that process as contact, and it becomes, in my opinion, the fundamental element of sound production. Without contact, there is no vibration, therefore no sound. The key to playing softly, thus effortlessly, is contact and not more air. Imagine if a violinist's bow was not touching the string. It would be the same thing. It would be no sound. Now that we've figured out how to play our first note, how do we play the other notes on a brass instrument? The ones in the harmonic series brass instruments are based on. Well, we need to go up and down in register. So basically, in order to play the low notes, imagine like a latex balloon. You still need contact of the lips, obviously, but the lips are more relaxed. You know, like when you inflate that balloon and you let go, and you know, the sound's kind of, you know, just kind of vibrates, but it's very loose. What you need to do in order to go towards the higher range is to bring your lips more together, more together, more together, like you would squeeze the latex balloon, and you're going to get a higher pitch. The more you can squeeze that balloon, the higher the pitch will be. So we kind of do the same thing. Now, in a more traditional way of playing, our embouchure settings were usually for every partial. That, you know, when we took a long time before we could progress to the next partial, the settings would kind of change. So we had, in my cases, I remember, we had a lot of different embouchure settings just to get through part of the range. But in order to get the lips closer together to go up in the range, one of the things that we need to do is to allow the lips to come together. And if you think about the fact that some people, I've heard people say, in order to go up range, you need to increase the air and blow harder. Well, I sort of argue that point a little bit, because if your lips are not strong enough to hold that air, all the air is going to do is basically blow them apart. Because the air is pushing this way and your lips come apart when you're trying to get them closer together to go in the upper range. So what I usually say is that try not to overblow. And one of the examples I use is the garden hose. For example, if you were playing in the yard, backyard, you have a garden hose, and even as a little kid, turn the water on, and you could put your thumb or fingers or even your hand over it and hold that water in, okay? And you play with it, and the tighter you hold and the still water come out, it's going to come out a little stream further away. But would you imagine being able to do that with a fire hose? Most people would not be able to do it because that water pressure is so hard that it would blow your hand away or your arm. So the idea is that here with the trumpet we're doing the same thing. If we blow too hard compared to like a fire hose, we're going to be blowing the notes apart, the lips apart, and not be able to get to the higher notes. Before we move on to the topic a little more, I still want to talk about breathing and therefore blowing. So one of the things is that if you drop your arms to kind of just totally relax your shoulders, and you take a full breath. Take a full breath through the mouth, and then try the same thing, a full breath through the nose. And if you should be noticing some kind of difference, unless you've already practiced that quite a bit, is that breathing through the nose will create a much more relaxed feeling. You may take a little less because the opening is less, but you will be more relaxed because there's no muscular action involved above the shoulders. So from the neck up, if you breathe through the nose, there's no muscular action involved over here. So what you can do is practice when you just drop the jaw, to practice getting that same feeling from breathing through the mouth. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is take that full breath and then blow as hard as you can with your mouth wide open. Then you're going to take that same breath, and if you need, of course, to pause in between each one, just pause the video, take that same full breath, the same way, relax but full, and blow with your mouth almost shut. And the third manner, take that same breath once again, fill yourself up, and without holding it, when you're full, you make your lips touch. So when you blow hard as you can, you will have contact. Okay? And on the fourth manner, you're going to take another full breath, and then you blow as hard as you can still, but you seal your lips shut and blow as hard as you can. Now, of course, you don't hold it for too long, but you just get the feel of how your body reacts to those ways of breathing, and mostly the way of your mouth changing. So you didn't think of anything other than breathing and blowing hard. And all you did is modify the position of your mouth. And that exercise is intended to show that the pressure inside the body happens automatically and not sort of predetermined. So I've seen people who are getting ready to play a high note and they sort of already tense up before the note. And the idea is that you don't have to. Once you develop muscle memory and a knowledge of where your embouchure needs to be for that over here, that response is going to be automatic, so you don't need to overdo it. Pushing air through the horn, especially as you try to go up in range, is counterproductive. I call that front loading. First, get your muscles to learn how to increase the range, and then you increase the volume gradually to strengthen those muscles so that they can resist the extra pressure. Because mouthpiece pressure is a mirror of the air pressure you use. So the harder you blow, the more mouthpiece will dig in. Now the final tip in developing our physical abilities as brass players is what I usually call the secret. It is what singers refer to as the pocket technique. It involves raising the soft palate. Now some trumpet techniques that use the syllables E or E to raise the tongue have been widely taught, and when the tongue is raised, it also raises the soft palate, but it also increases air velocity. Faster airspeed will make the sound brighter. So to sum things up, the 3 tips I have for improving the physical aspect of trumpet playing are contact, garden hose or not overblowing, and the pocket technique. I'll repeat those: contact, not overblowing, and the pocket technique. Getting back to the holy grail of trumpet playing. We all have comfort zones, and this is where we are comfortable and able to function pretty easily. In order to make progress, we need to step out of our comfort zone to expand the areas that we want to evolve in. We can best do that by slowly moving into the next zone until that becomes our new comfort zone, and continue to do so in an almost limitless way. Comfort zones differ amongst musicians, athletes, and pretty much everybody based on each person's mindset and the amount of practice and hard work they put into their craft. Range and endurance. These two will increase as you keep practicing with the 5 steps principle. The best method for this, in my opinion, is what worked for me, Musical Calisthenics for Brass by Carmine Caruso. Consistency. Well, that will be a part of who you become as a performer as you increase your comfort zones and your instrument becomes an extension of your body. You no longer think of how you play the instrument, but only about the music you want to express. Flexibility will also be improved in your playing as you increase your endurance. How is that, you may ask? Well, in my early days of playing, I would feel best when I did some very easy warm-ups and I was only flexible until my muscles got fatigued. In those days, that didn't take too long. As I got stronger though, I realized that the further I could delay feeling tired, the longer I was flexible. 2 of the Caruso exercises that I credit the most for that are the harmonics and also the lip flexibilities Carmine gave me. Those lip flexibility exercises are not in his original book, but in the sequel. Tone quality will come with ease of sound production. So contact, as opposed to front loading, will be the best way. And the best Caruso exercise for that is the subtones exercise, which is also in the sequel book. Another way to think about ease of sound production is the way Yuan Racy would have one play some of the Schlossberg exercises. Technique. Well, the Arbin book covers it all. I have selected 13 pages, which should appear at the bottom of your screen here. And I believe they're all the same numbers no matter what publication you have. So those 13 pages and the exercises in those pages, when done over the course of several weeks with the right approach, will increase your technical abilities and finalize your quest for the holy grail of trumpet playing. Now what this will really accomplish is to give you all the tools necessary to perform any music you fancy to perform without letting the instrument be an obstacle, but rather having mastered its requirements to the point where it has become an extension of your body. So if you're interested in getting more in-depth info about the topics briefly covered in this video, it is all detailed in my Caruso and Beyond video series of 24 lessons available on my website, DominicDerasse.com. I have a final challenge for you guys. The following 19-second video excerpt was part of a recording I did in 1987. I have no recollection of this piece. If someone just played an audio version of it for me and told me that it was me playing, I would deny it on the basis of a couple of things. First, I could never have played that. Second, if I had been able to play that, I would certainly remember it, as I would have had to practice it a lot, and I am known for having a really good musical memory. So here it is in video. I cannot deny it, but I would still like to know what this piece is. So here's my challenge, my offer. I will offer a free copy of my recent book, The Book of Trumpet Secrets, to the first person who can tell me what it is. So please send me an email at dominic@dominicderasse.com. If you know what that piece is, and of course I can verify it, you will receive in return a free copy of my book. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you're able to help me out with this piece, the name of that piece, and I wish you all a wonderful musical journey.